Hello, how's everyone? Welcome to part two of the YouTube countdown review thing. Um, Obviously, again, I did part one on Friday, now doing part two on Sunday. I have enjoyed the way I did that, how I had a lot more to say about those albums, so I'll definitely do them for bands who have more than 10 albums. Um, and for any other bands that I have a lot to say about. So it's a good idea. Um, anyway, here's part two. I'll just quickly, if you've missed part one or you can't remember what the 14 to 7 or 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8 albums were, I'll quickly tell you now, then we'll get into the top 7 or the other half of YouTube discography. So, number 14 was No Light on the Horizon, 2009. Number 13, Songs of Experience, 2017. Number 12, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, 2004. Number 11, October 1981. Number 10, Rattlin' Hum, 1988. Number 9, Songs of Innocence, 2014. And number 8, Boy from 1980. So that was the first half. Now we'll get into the next half. So starting at number 7, Zooropa, from 1993. Really impressive album, this, considering how they did it. This was recorded on the Zoo TV tour. Well, actually, from when they finished the American Outside Broadcast leg in 1992 to the beginning of the Zooropa leg in 1993, they recorded a lot of this and tried to sort of get it done between that time, but obviously knowing U2 and how long they like to take to record albums, that didn't happen. So they did a lot of flying to and from the shows and back to Dublin to record, to finish off the album. Which, and for how they, and for U2 to do that is obviously not their style. They're not a band to just walk in, throw an album down and then say, okay, that's good, let's put it out. They very much like to overthink things and go through a lot of stuff. And the quality of this album is actually very good. Great, and this has one of my all-time favourite U2 songs. Not my favourite, it comes at number 2 for all-time favourite U2 songs. It probably would be in my top 10 songs of all time, and that is Stay, Far Away, So Close. A brilliant song, just brilliant, beautiful song. Really, the way Edge arpeggiates those chords and stuff really allows Bono to show off his voice and the sort of crooning sort of stuff of people like Sinatra. That was the working title for the song, Sinatra. And the B-side to the single was a duet that Bono did with Frank Sinatra when they redid I've Got You Under My Skin. So yeah, that's a great song. But you got stuff like Zooropa, that's its own world. The sonic architecture of that is just genius, and that's where you got the genius of Brian Eno comes in. Brian Eno was since 1984. The last time he worked with them on was 2009. I don't know if he worked on them for Innocence and Experience, but he's worked on nearly every album since then. I think the album he didn't work on was Pop. So yeah, and this was mainly Brian Eno's thing, this album, because he was the main producer. Also the first time Edge has a producing credit. And you get something like Zooropa, which is just Brian Eno at his best. You got Edge on vocals for Numb, although he's more sort of fast talking, sort of, it's not quite rap, but the song's called Numb. It's very much sort of no emotion, no feeling, just that sort of thing. Then you got The Wanderer, which features legendary Johnny Cash. Who's great artist, great. If you don't know about Johnny Cash, then you clearly don't know about music. First time, great song. And then a song I've actually been listening to a lot over the past week or so since you two did that live stream with Zoo TV is Daddy's Gonna Pay for Your Crash Car. That's a really good song. I wish they'd sang snippets of it when I went and saw them. They did a snippet of it in Adelaide just before Vertigo. It was the intro to Larry was doing the drum intro to Vertigo. Bono started singing Daddy's Gonna Pay for Your Crash Car. I wish they'd play it again. It's a really good song. Anyway, there you go. Number 7, Zooropa. Number 6, the first album that came out before I was alive, and I have such an attachment to this album. Oh, I can't tell you, and that's All That You Can't Leave Behind. I thought about maybe putting Zooropa ahead of this album because I think sonically and song-wise, that album's definitely a lot heavier, and I love the sort of darker sort of tones when it comes to U2 and stuff. Not that this doesn't have dark tones, but it's very reflective. U2 in the 80s were very much, were a rock band without the excess. In the 90s they went, and then in the late 80s they got slogged for it, so then they decided to take on that excess sort of and become actual rock stars as opposed to just rock musicians and stuff. And then by the time they came out of the 90s, a lot had happened. Like some close friends to them had passed away. Michael Hutchence being one of them, and the song "Stuck in a Moment" on this album is obviously written for him. And they experienced a lot throughout the 90s, and this was the first album where really they started to realise that they're getting old, and their fathers. Pretty much all of them except Adam were fathers at this point. Bono had 2 daughters. Edge had a couple of kids. Larry, I'm not 100% sure how many kids he has. And also another thing that was happening at the time was Bono's father was very ill, and he died during the tour for this. So stuff like that was really beginning to hit U2, and they started to look on things and be quite reflective. And we get songs like Kite, When I Look at the World, stuff like that. And obviously this has Beautiful Day, which is probably, you could argue, is U2's biggest hit. I reckon when we're all said and gone, when someone makes the book of rock and roll, U2 obviously will have their own chapter or their own page, because when you're this big and this influential, you just has to. The top 3 songs that people remember, I think, will be One, With or Without You, and Beautiful Day, or possibly Where the Streets Have No Name as well, but we'll find out. But yeah, definitely Beautiful Day. Then what else is on here? You got New York, which became a big anthem for U2 at the time of 9/11, because this came out just a year prior to it. In a little while, just a really good sort of relaxing album. It's a lot sort of softer than obviously than what they'd done previously. A lot of that stuff was a lot harder edged, a lot darker, and a lot more rougher. This is a bit more reflective, a bit softer sort of thing. But yeah, this is the first album that came out when I was born in February of 99. This album came out in October of 2000, so I was almost 2 when this album came out. And for the first 4 years of my life, I lived in a different house up in Newhampton Heights, and a lot of memories I have for that house are attached to this album. So, and a lot of these songs have gone on to mean different things for me throughout time. So, yeah, great record. Don't know what else really I can say to sum it up. although I will say this, as of the 2019 tour, I have seen the first side of this live, which I'm really happy about. I got to see. I've seen Beautiful Day in Elevation 3 times. I got to see Kite and Walk On on my first show in a little while at 360 Degrees, as well as Walk On, and then Stuck in a Moment at the Sydney shows last November, and they did a great tribute to Michael Hutchence. Awesome tribute. There you go. Number 6, All That You Can't Leave Behind. Top 5. Here we go. Number 5, The Unforgettable Fire. This and War. I kind of just spoiled the next one, to be honest. This and the next one, I think, can change at any time, I originally thought. But what edged The Unforgettable Fire to be a bit lower is that there are a lot of stuff on here that aren't quite, I don't want to say so they're not complete, but they're not fleshed out proper ideas. And being this is the first album they did with Brian Eno was very big on not doing conventional songs. I read somewhere that Brian Eno was very fixated on the stuff that didn't really have a destination. Stuff like Pride and Name of Love and the song The Unforgettable Fire, he didn't really worry about them too much or focus on them too much because they had a destination. They knew where they were going. Although The Unforgettable Fire is probably one of the most ambient songs I've ever heard in my life. And it is in my top five songs of U2. The Unforgettable Fire, great song. Really, really ambient. Something happens when I put on headphones and just listen to this song. There are moments at work when this song's come on and I've just stopped doing what I'm doing for the next 4.5 minutes and I'm not sitting at work, I'm standing. And just stand and listen to this song. It's just a great song. But yeah, continuing on the Eno factor, songs like Elvis Presley in America was a song he really enjoyed because it was just a bunch of crap thrown together, which is honestly what it is. No, Elvis Presley in America is not one of my favourite U2 songs, and although there are some great ideas, some great melodies, if they worked on it more, maybe chopped it up into a couple of different pieces and just taken, okay, there's a good melody, we'll take that and go off and do something with it. But, you know, it's a hash of ideas. What else have you got? Sort of Homecoming. Wire, I think, is a very underrated track that is a favourite of mine. And then Bad. Bad means so much to me. It was really... I talked about in the first part how the Rattle and Hum movie meant so much to me because it was what I used to watch a lot as a kid. The first moment that really got me from that movie was that song, Bad, you know, and getting to see it live on this recent tour, I had tears in my eyes when I first saw it. You get to see that emotion and how powerful that song live is. It is probably U2's greatest ever live song. And if people say, what song should I go and look up for U2, I always say, go and look up Bad live. Doesn't matter whether it's Live Aid, Rattle and Hum, Boston, Rome, both the 2010 version and the recent 2017 one. Just amazing performances. I've never seen a bad performance of Bad. You know, it gets me every time. It's a great song. Awesome. Let's see, MLK. Yeah. Very much a departure from their first 3 albums. And got sort of mixed reviews. It was quite ambient. If you listen to the album that came before to this album, the other song was a lot heavier, a lot harder edged, and a lot more sort of very much in the sense of like a Led Zeppelin or a Who sort of band, and then to get this, which is sort of quite ambient and using, pardon me, different sort of polyrhythms and technology using well, not quite samples, but delay and loop stuff, synthesizers and stuff. You know, it was a big sort of move at that time, although not as big as what U2 would go on to do in the 90s. Yeah, good album. I actually remember getting this album when I was 5, and it really just, yeah, great record. Not number 5. Number 4 is War. This is a classic record. When I went on the Joshua Tree tour, a lot of people I spoke to said this was the album that sort of introduced them, or people that were a bit older, who had probably grown up in the 80s a bit more and stuff. They said this was like the album that caught their attention, and I see why. I remember pulling this album out of my parents' box of CDs and absolutely having it on loop. It's a great record. Sunday Bloody Sunday and New Year's Day are two songs that haven't left the set. New Year's Day has been played on every tour since this album came out, and same with Sunday Bloody Sunday, except for the Lovetown tour, because after Bono did the Fuck the Revolution speech on Rattle and Hum, they received death threats and stuff, and they thought if they played the song again, you know, uncomfortable things would arise, so they put off playing it for a couple of years. Eventually played it during the third leg of the Zoo TV tour, and then did that version in Pop Mart, which is brilliant. If you ever seen, if you go and look up Sunday Bloody Sunday live in 1997, it's just this version of Edge by himself singing the song. It's a great rendition of Sunday Bloody Sunday. But obviously you've got the Red Rocks video, which absolutely launched U2 into, you know, worldwide fame, or definitely fame in America. And even worldwide fame. So they came to Australia after that, and they went to Japan and all these other countries and stuff. Whereas for the first couple of tours, they'd just been going to Europe and America. What song you got? Like a Song, that's an absolute heavy rocker. Drowning Man, Two Hearts Beat as One, which was Bono's wedding present to Ali. And then of course, this album ends with 40, which was, you know, U2's closing song throughout the 80s, and occasionally they brought it back on a couple of tours. They played it on Vertigo tour, Innocence Experience, and they performed a couple of times on Pop Mart, which has been cool. But yeah, good record, but doesn't quite make my top 3. Okay, now that we're in the top 3, I'm probably going to go track by track, because it's very hard to not just, you know, splurge about these albums. I absolutely love these albums, and yeah, they probably are in my top 10 albums of all time, these 3. Maybe not this one. This one, if it isn't, it'd be at number 11. But I absolutely love this album. This one's for you, Marco. So I know how much you love this album, and that's Pop. I love this album. Wish U2 would play it live more. They've brought back Staring at the Sun on the Experience Innocence tour in 2018. It's the first time they played anything from this album in, 13 years. 2005, I think, was the last time they played something off this album. Great record. I know I remember my dad telling me that this album was in the bargain bin, like not long after it came out. It got smash that hard. And I get that when your first single is Discotheque. Unlike Now on the Horizon, I think that is a better first single, but the video and how different it was is probably not. Probably came as a shock to a lot of U2 fans in 1997, but, you know, part of the thing for me is I get to look on it from hindsight, and I understand a lot of this album. Paul McGuinness once said that this album probably suffers from, you know, too many cooks in the kitchen spoiled the broth. I don't think that's true, because Songs of Experience and Songs of Innocence have 1,000 different producers. So is No on the Horizon. No on the Horizon, they went with Rick Rubin, and they went with Brian and Eno and Lanois, and they went through a couple other producers as well. The reason why I think the Innocence Experience and pop work as opposed to No on the Horizon was a million different producers, because they had an end goal. They knew where they were going for this. This was supposed to be U2 sort of tribute to dance and club culture with rock guitars, and they sort of, and then I think they sort of got there on a couple of songs. Thing is, how do you, sort of music you hear in dance clubs, how do you do that with rock guitars without sampling and all this other sort of technology attached to it? Which is why I think it was so rough and on edge, and they spent so long on it, because they needed to know what to do. But Discotheque, great song. Pardon me. They got, where to begin? Do You Feel Loved? Rarely played, but really cool song. Mofo, the opening to the Pop Mart tour, one of the best opening U2 songs ever. If God Will Send His Angels, I wish they'd play that a lot more. But going from last night's, U2 Start did a stream of the first Pop Mart show last night. If we're going to go off that, I feel fine about keeping If God Will Send His Angels out of the set. Staring at the Sun, probably the most classic song off this album, the most played song off this album, I reckon. Last Night on Earth, that song went down to the wire, actually. About 4 a.m. the morning before this album was due to give to the record label, Bono was in the studio writing the lyrics and doing the vocals for this song. And so that, I'm glad they got it in, but Gone, really cool song, real heavy song, a song about, wanting to cut ties from sort of domestic life in a way and just live that free sort of rock star sort of lifestyle, I guess. You got the infamous Miami, which I will admit I don't understand, but after 10 beers it becomes my favourite song. Playboy Mansion is quite bluesy, almost sort of thing you sort of hear in a jazz club in a way. Cool. The lyrics sort of are a bit weird, but although I like the chorus, when will there be no time for sorrow, when will there be no time for shame, I think that's a cool lyric. If You Wear That Velvet Dress, I don't think they got it right on the album, however when they played it live they redid it and rethought it up a bit more, and I think they got it right there. I'm going to skip to 12 before I talk about 11. Wake Up Dead Man is probably the darkest U2 song ever written and recorded, and also the only U2 song to include profanity in the lyrics. Now, number 11 on this album is Please. Again, one of my all-time favourite U2 songs. How they don't play it live, I don't know. U2 are very known for their political views and working political views into their music and into their shows. They've always had a part where they do like this sort of big epic thing with Bullet the Blue Sky and Sunday Bloody Sunday and stuff. How Please doesn't get in the mix of all that, I don't know. Yeah, they did play it live after 9/11 though. They did do it acoustically, which that was brilliantly done. However, the version they did on Pop Mart, I wish they would do a lot more because that was very, very good. But there you go. My number 3 album is Pop. Number 2, legendary Joshua Tree. Great record. What can you say about this album that hasn't been said? You know, I think if you went and saw U2 at all in 2017 or 2019 on the Joshua Tree tours where they played this album from beginning to end, I think that would sort of sum up how great this album is. But if you didn't, I'll try and tell you right now. Where you got starting off with Where the Streets Have No Name has become U2's live, or one of U2's live, next to Bad, I reckon, U2's live anthem. This song has been, apart from a couple of shows in the Joshua Tree tour and one show in the Love Town tour and the Innocence Experience tour where no Joshua Tree songs were played, that song has been played at every U2 show, and it's always a highlight. You know, you can do a U2 set list and go through all the songs, even, you know, songs like Beautiful Day and Pride and stuff, which are well known and people sing along, but you can just watch when that Organ to Street starts. You just watch everyone's spirits and also everyone in that stadium stand up and get up. I've never seen it happen except in a U2 show, except for Where the Streets Have No Name. Still found I'm looking for is, as Bono put it, a gospel song with kind of a restless spirit. Very much in that gospel vein. Lyrics are very much of stuff you go and hear in church and all that. Yeah, it is a classic song. Probably my least favourite on the album. But that's only just because of the calibre of everything else is just brilliant. You know, With or Without You, classic song. I don't think I have to explain that song. Everyone knows that song. Next to Bought the Blue Sky and Running to Stand Still are two of my all-time favourites. Bought the Blue Sky was my favourite song of this album and my favourite U2 song at one point. But after going and seeing him on this tour, that's now been overtaken by Running to Stand Still. It's my favourite song off this album. It just blows me away, that song. How lyrically it's one of my all-time favourite U2 songs. That verse where he goes, she runs through the streets, her eyes painted red, under black burning clouds in the rain. Just brilliant poetry. Creates a real dark image, but creates just a wonderful image. No, that's not quite right. Yeah. What else we got here? We got Red Hill Mining Town, which was great to see live, even though they had to redo it. There's a reason why that song hardly gets played live, because the notes Bono hits are just so high that to keep doing that live night after night would be so hard. So they redid it, brought the keys down a bit, and Edge played piano instead of guitar, so be a bit easier to sing. In God's Country is great, sort of not throwaway song, but just a great sort of rock sort of song. What a Tree of Wise is very sort of, and that's country and western spirit. One Tree Hill is beautiful song, great song about celebrating life and remembering people that were passed. I listened to it yesterday for Anzac Day to remember all the soldiers, and yeah, great song. And you got the double and then this ends off on a dark note. A lot of people sort of embrace the Joshua Tree for sort of uplifting spirits. It ends on Exit and Mothers That Disappeared, which are very dark sort of songs. Exit very much, Bono said, Exit was very much him trying to bring out that violent side in him and trying to replicate that sort of violent thing that goes on in America, that Americans have about them. He did it perfectly. Seeing that on that tour was probably the highlight of the show. It was just great. Bono dressed up in like it's like this dark sort of murderous cowboy who has a complete dedication to the Bible. It was very cool and just great to see it. And Larry's drumming on that song is just outstanding. And then of course Mothers That Disappeared, very heavy song about all the Chilean government and people in El Salvador and places in South America who are just taking children, and they're never to be seen again. You had the infamous shows on the Pop Mart tour where they played Mothers That Disappeared, and they brought all the mothers who had lost their children on stage as a protest, for General Pinochet to tell them where their children are. Very cool, very emotional sort of moment, but great record. I don't think I mentioned this at the start. I probably should. It's about America, and the sort of where the desert meets civilization, which is very much what the album cover represents. 4 guys dressed in black coats and jeans and a cowboy hat in the desert. And you get that if you watch the video to In God's Country. It's very much America and sort of building it up to be this big economic monster which we know of today. So yeah, there you go. My number 2. Now obviously you should know my number 1, but it was something I've got to put on for this. Now let's do number 1. Achtung Baby. I've got my fly goggles on. What can I say about this album? The Joshua Tree almost overtook this as my number 1 after seeing it live, but it still stands out as my favourite. Just surrounding on the Zoo Station, even the real thing, One, Until the End of the World, Wild Horse is so cruel, The Fly, Mysterious Ways, Trying 3 Arms Around the World, Ultraviolet, Acrobat, and Love Is Blindness. Just great songs. There's been a lot of talk about whether U2, because next year is 30 years since this album, and whether U2 will do a 30th anniversary tour playing the album in full like they did for Joshua Tree. As much as I love to see new U2 and U2 progressing, I do want to see this live. It's my all-time favourite album, and I would love to actually see it live. And if you haven't guessed, this song features my all-time favourite song ever, and that is The Fly. Great song, my favourite lyric. I love It's No Secret That a Conscience Can Sometimes Be a Pest. Just for a band that were doing, lyrics and songs like When Love Comes to Town, very sort of lyrics and songs in that biblical vein, to start go and write a line like, it's no secret a conscience can sometimes be a pest. It's just so drastically different. And then you got, stuff like Mysterious Ways, great song. As I said, One will probably be the song when U2 is 50 years from now and U2 is long gone and we're all still talking about them. I think, everyone has that one song. For me, it would be One for U2. Until the End of the World, one of my favourites. I remember on my first First time I saw U2 on the way up to Sydney, as I live here in Newcastle, on the way up to Sydney we were discussing the set list. My mother and my father took me. We were discussing the set list and what they would play. And I remember saying, oh, they'll play until the end of the world. And Dad goes, no, they won't play until the end. And I said, yes they will, no they won't, yes they will, no they won't, yes they will. Keep going back and forth like that. Anyway, by the end of it, we get to the concert. Concert starts, they do City of Blinding Lights, Vertigo, Elevation. What's the fourth song they do? Until the End of the World. And I remember just looking at my dad going, I told you so, I told you so. And it was great rendition, great performance of that song. I'm so glad that we got a version of Acrobat from the recent tour. That's one, again, in my top 5 U2 songs. That is a great song, great lyric. And then you can't go wrong when an album starts with Zoo Station and ends with Love Is Blindness and has The Fly and Ultraviolet and Acrobat and So Cruel and Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses in between. Again, Wild Horses is another favourite of mine. It's a great album. Achtung Baby. There we go. And then obviously what followed this was the Zoo TV tour, which is probably my, if I go back in time and see one tour, it would be that one. It's off. It's quite cloudy outside, I can't really see with those on. So there you go, there's my U2 review. All 14 albums. Again, it's in different parts. I hope you enjoyed it. I love talking about U2 so much that I have, for the past year or so, I've been writing a book sort of thing just for me, which I've found writing a book is a lot harder than sitting and talking about U2. So I thought I would be able to easily knock it out. Just thinking about it, I remember thinking, I could easily just sit down and write about U2, but to actually sort of make it sound articulate, to get everything on and actually type it, that's actually a bit longer than, just thinking about it and talking about it. Which is partly why I do this. Yeah. If you watch it, thanks for watching. Enjoy it, and I'll see you on Friday for the next one. Thanks, bye.